Hello, everyone, and good afternoon. I know it's been a little while, but you know how summer is sometimes. It's crazy busy with everything going on. Um, but had a couple people ask about the maker marks of the Eickhorn daggers. So I've got 4 examples here today, and we're going to talk a little bit about those. So it'll be a little short video, but I'm just going to show the 4 examples of the maker marks of Eickhorn that were placed on the Army daggers. And a lot of people collect, by types, by different makers and things like that. But honestly, Eickhorn is my favorite. Uh, I've got several. And beyond the maker marks, you can collect a lot of different variations within the even just Eickhorn daggers. There's different cross guards, there's different grips, there's different, of course, maker marks, and a whole variation. Even material. Some are, earlier brass scabbards, and then there's aluminum scabbards, and then the standard, later steel scabbards. So there's a lot of variations in this, which really I think is what makes this hobby really interesting and fun. But let's get started here. All right, the first Army dagger we've got here is the early, and one thing I'm going to mention too, that's the early double oval. And one thing I'll mention as well, I got Whitman's, the information out of his book, which is kind of the common knowledge of the maker mark information, and then the book Here Dolce, which is a really great book as well. But I've noticed that the dates as to when the maker marks were used varies just a little bit. So we'll start with this one. The early double oval is a 33 to 35 logo. That's the common knowledge of that, and that's what Whitman has in his book as well. The however, on Army daggers, the Here Dolce has it could be used on Army daggers from 35 to 37. So there's a little bit of variation there. But now that's just a fantastic logo. Just a quick look at the dagger as well. Like I said, this is the early double oval. Brass fittings. Really nice piece. Yeah, and I think it's interesting that there's a little variation in the time frames there. And if you didn't know, the Army dagger was issued in 1935 originally. So you're not going to have so even though that's a 33-35 logo, it's not going to be, it can't be a pre-35 Army dagger because there was not any. Okay, but that is the 33-35 logo, as Whitman states. But it was used on Army daggers from 35 to 37, as the Here Dolce book states. All right, let's go to the next one. All right, and it will be called the Type 2 logo. They changed with the squirrels holding the sword in a down direction. And this is probably the most common logo. The Whitman book has this one going from 35 to 41. And Here Dolce has it going from 36 to 40. So again, a little bit of variation there. But I think, I don't know, I kind of like and look at that right there. Isn't that great? How that's toned over the years. Look at that. Army daggers don't have a real high value for the most part. And that's kind of what makes them fun to collect. you can get a lot of variations in really nice condition for a pretty fair price. You know, of course, there's some, you get into etched and things like that, and the price jumps up quite a bit. But the typical standard issue Army daggers are really pretty reasonable, and I actually like them a lot. So there's again the Type 2. Again, Whitman says 35 to 41. Here Dolce says 1936 to 1940. Again, a really great little trademark. And a beautiful dagger, if I do say so myself. All right, the Type 3 logo is the same as before, only difference is that it's stamped, but it's the same design. The squirrel holding the sword in a down direction. And again, this is a stamped design. This is a little bit harder maker mark to find on the Eickhorns. They're not quite as popular. This is the Type 3, and Whitman has it in his book as pretty much a 1940, but he also stated that it could be 1941. So let's just say 1940-41 logo from Whitman. And the Here Dolce book has it from 1937 to 1940. But again, this is not a really, really common logo. The Type 2 is probably the most common. But I do like these stamped ones. And again, we're just talking about Army daggers. The variations are different on some others. You know, for example, the hunting daggers, you know, you like to see it stamped. This one right here. So keep that in mind. These rules apply to the Army daggers that we're talking about. Again, overall, a beautiful dagger. And there you have the Type 3. Now moving on to the later and last example. Let's see. The Type 4 logo, maker mark, which is over the shoulder, which can't really see that. It's hidden in there pretty well by the cross guard. So let's loosen this up a little bit so you can see in there. The over-the-shoulder logo on Eickhorn Edged weapons is relatively hard to find as well. There we go. Look at that cross grain in there. How can you not love these things? But there you have the over-the-shoulder logo of the Eickhorn. They switched it. The squirrel is sitting there, and as it states, he's looking back over his shoulder. Okay, and that's the Type 4. Whitman has this as a post 41 maker mark. So one reason this is a little bit harder to find, if you think about it, the war is in full swing at this point. I mean, they're fighting everywhere, so they're more worried about having materials for, you know, armaments, weapons, munitions, you know, everything for the war effort, and not for an army dagger for the guy to look nice when he gets home. Okay, so again, Whitman says this is a post 41 logo, maker mark. And the Here Dolce book says the Type 4 is a 1940 to 42. Which you know, they kind of cross over a little bit with each other as we've spoke. But again, this is another great logo. Kind of hard to find. Hard to find on a naval dagger. I've got one of those as well. But again, Whitman says in his book, Post 41, maker mark. And here Dolce says 1940 to 42. Let's tighten that back down a little bit, the way it's supposed to be. Just loosen that up a little bit so you guys could check it out there. But there's the everything on there, good and tight. There we go. Everything's back to normal. And get another beautiful, beautiful Eickhorn. Look at that blade. That cross grain right there. And again, over the shoulder logo. But there you go. Had a couple people ask about the years and what the difference of the logos were. So that's a quick explanation for Eickhorn logos on Army daggers, which are super fun to collect. Eickhorn has really, really great quality. Again, these started being issued in 1935 and went to 1942. Best we can tell, anyway, the last part, 1942. So if you've got any questions or comments, feel free to let me know, or if you'd like to see more about the variations of Army daggers or any other, I've got several we could talk about. Like I said, you could talk about the differences in the cross guards, the scabbards, the grips even. There's glass grips, there's the celluloid, there's what they call type ABC, the early slant, and so on and so forth. The pommels, 14 leaves, 12 oak leaves, all kinds of different variations. So if you come up with anything, let me know. We'll get it out, and because that's what I like to do, is get the information out, help out everyone, especially the newer collectors. That wasn't always there for me on a video the way I liked it, so that's why I'm trying to do it now. And otherwise, give us a like, check us out, and everyone have a good afternoon. Thank you.